holding my breath and I'm ready to go. I'm falling right in and I'm ready to go. I found what I want and I know that we're on top, so I'll tap in and I'm ready to work.
Broadcasting from Central Kentucky, the headquarters of the Dr. My Budget podcast, where we discuss how to grow your personal wealth without having a major impact on your current lifestyle. Here is your host, Dr. Dan, the Finance Man.
Welcome, everyone. Today is May the 9th, 2023. I'm your host, Dr. Dan, the Finance Man, and this episode is sponsored by Nexa Mortgage, MLS ID 2296654. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in the near future, we have a team of professionals all throughout the country ready to assist you. To learn more, to discuss your options, feel free to reach out at Dr. Dan at drmybudget.com. And always remember, you can reach us by call or text at 859-429-0552. So let's dive in. Over a 40-year period, Jo has built an extensive and expansive real estate network throughout Kentucky, connecting home builders, community leaders, developers, investors, as well as buyers and sellers, which has made Jo one of the top real estate professionals here in Central Kentucky. And I'm super excited to have her on the show. Please welcome Ms. Jo Gawthrop. Jo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Okay, so, you've been in the real estate industry for 40 years. So what caused you to get involved in real estate?
Well, how long do we have?
You got all the time you need, Jo.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, it's 40 years. It's actually 42 years now. So 1981, I came back to Central Kentucky. I was waiting for my dream job to come through in Birmingham. And while I was waiting for that in the interim, went to work for my dad. And he was in the process of building an additional 32 apartment units in Winchester. And so I started going to work with him, and I loved it. I don't think his superintendent loved it because I was asking so many questions every day. I think I was more of a nuisance to him. But after working with Dad for a couple of weeks, my dream job came through. Or so I thought, my dream job, and I started thinking about it. And I thought, why would I want to leave now? And so I stayed, and I'm glad that I did. In 1 year, I actually lived in 4 states, and I decided that I wanted to have some roots somewhere. And I never dreamed that I'd move back to Central Kentucky. I thought it was, the environment was much too slow for me. And now I fit right in, and I guess the pace was good for me then, and it's good for me now.
That is great to hear about that. So what would you consider your specialty is in real estate?
Well, because I have such a vast experience in the building side, I know a lot about new construction, and I have been building for a long time. I've built about 1,000 units. And because of that, single family, multifamily, duplexes. And because of that, for years, I basically had an open house 7 days a week. Now, when I was building, I always had a realtor representation. So I had on-site agents. And so the one thing that I learned is, as a builder, the client that's walking in the door, they're either going to buy from you or they're going to go somewhere else. So you've got to learn to overcome objections. And so with having people come in and out 7 days a week, you learn how to overcome those objections. It's either buy or die. You keep on going. And it's not, asking. You ask for the order multiple times every time you talk to them, but you've got to stay in touch. And that's the key thing. It's also staying on top of what's current in the market. Through homebuilders, I learned that. Was also always looking for what the current trends were. I became a judge for different home builders associations across the country. I judged the Atlanta Home Builders Association for 20 plus years. I do the Raleigh Association every other year. I've done Charleston, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Sacramento, Denver. I used to like to get one of the West Coast cities on my agenda because it was a great reason to have a business trip plus pleasure. But because of that, I made a great network of friends doing that. But also, it would sort of give us a trend on what would happen in Central Kentucky in the next 3 to 5 years. And the sales and marketing end, I always love that. You can't have the sales and marketing end if you don't have the bricks and sticks as far as the building world. And so I learned to blend the two together. And for a short stint of 3 years, I became the marketing director for, at that time, Cutter Homes and Barlow Homes. And so that was a great experience too, taking two builders and watching them grow exponentially.
Okay. Well, you had mentioned that back in the 90s, you actually started the Grand Tour of Homes. You're like one of the 3 founding members. So for those that are listening that are from outside of the area, what exactly is the Grand Tour of Homes?
Great. That's my baby. I love talking about the Grand Tour of Homes. So there are 3 of us that brought the Grand Tour of Homes to Lexington. We had always had the Parade of Homes, which was great. It was a single site. A developer would have a street, a couple streets, and it was basically a higher end home. And so it was selling the dream. And through all my experiences of judging around the country, we were leaving a vast amount of people out of the market because people love to see the dream of the more expensive home, but we also need to be able to show the affordable homes, every price range, every location. So we started this under Ray Ball was our president of the HBA at the time. And so we wanted to be able to bring it in. At that time, we brought it in at during the 3rd quarter of the year. So we were past the major selling season, and to be able to help our builders get their 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, and then their 1st quarter of sales. And in new home sales, a lot of people think, okay, your main selling season is the spring and the summer before the kids get into school. But with new homes, what happens so much is that people make it through the end of the year, and then they realize, for tax reasons, whatever, I want to build a new home this next year. So our biggest month, year in and year out, in sales would be January. And I would tell people that, and they'd be startled. And I'm like, no, that's the truth with new home sales. But getting back to the Grand Tour of Homes, sorry, just a second. I got to have a sip. Wanted to be able to present the affordable housing market, move down. Also, might have the townhomes, condos, whatever, just to get the broad spectrum. And so we did this over a 2-week period, 2 weekends, and it was quite effective. And we brought people that were in the industry from throughout the state would come in, and they would judge us and the homes on the best overall floor plan, best kitchen, best master suite. And now we call it the primary bedroom, primary suite. We would present those honors at we would have a function after it was over, the tour was over. And typically what happens is the first weekend of the tour, people will go see the more expensive homes. And because they want to see the dream. And then the next weekend, they'll go see reality on what really works. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to open it up to everyone. And it's just been phenomenal. And thank goodness that we've done it. It's been good for the general public. It's been wonderful for our association. I'm still a member of, it's now called the BIA, the Building Industry Association. It's good for the Building Industry Association. It's good for our suppliers, our vendors, and of course the realtors. And it has very different times. So we might have it in June up to October. This year, it's the third and fourth weekends in July, and it's a great time. We have extended hours, and I'm always promoting it because it's great just to see what's in the market.
Very cool. So, Jo, every time we get an opportunity to speak, you've always got something going on. So what are some of your current projects that you have going on right now?
Well, my pride and joy of the Distillery Heights downtown at the corner of Oliver Lewis Way and Manchester Street. We closed on our last one in October of 22. And I have people that still call me to see if there's anything available. There have been some resales there. But when we first did that, people were like, I can't believe you're selling those, building those, selling them, in that location. And we made it through COVID. We made it through Manchester Street being closed for 10 months. And then boom, the gates open. And so it's been very good. Getting ready to do an affordable rental situation down there, 16 units in the Distillery District. Very excited about that. We're working on getting our budgets in, and hopefully we'll be moving dirt before you know it. It sounds like it's happened overnight. That's not exactly what's happened, but to the general public, it would appear that way.
Okay. And so we can both agree that the real estate market is ever changing.
Yes.
It seems like almost daily. So how has the real estate market changed from now versus like when you first got into the industry?
Well, when I first got into the industry in the early 80s, our interest rates were double digits. And my first mortgage was my first condo was $35,500, and my interest rate was double digits, and my payment was $800. And so now, we had the anomaly was that we've had the really low interest rates, and now, where they are is more of a reality, and it's a great interest rate. It really, truly is. But we got so used to the extreme low interest rates. And so it is, it's more of reality of where we've been and where we are. And, of course, our pricing is higher. Our building costs are much higher than they used to be. But the existing homes, newer construction, I'm working with several builders now. I'm really excited that I have a builder that we've done 8 remodeling projects together. We're just getting ready to start our first new construction. And we hope to have some entry-level homes that will be in the 200s, low 200s, starting at the low 200s, maybe slightly lower that, but we gotta make sure we're still getting our budgets in on that. So we're trying to attract all different spectrums, and I have builders that have lots. I have, single family lots, multi-family lots, homes that are up, just all across the spectrum. And I'm currently doing a home over in the Chevy Chase area that'll be finished in about, I'd like to say 4 to 6 weeks, but I've been saying that now for about 4 months. But I really think it'll be finished very shortly. So
very good.
So I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs. There's always something going on, always opportunities. You know me.
Yes. So and I'm glad that you brought this up. So with the current low inventory, which right now, if you look today on the multiple listing system, it says that we have under 2,000, right at like 1993 homes that are currently available in all throughout central Kentucky. So with that being said, what should potential buyers as well as sellers know about the market conditions?
Well, it is a tight market. And for people that say, I'm going to wait until the prices go down, let's talk about that. For years, year in and year out, we traditionally had around 1,800 building permits, the Lexington Homebuilders Association. Now we have around 500 to 600 permits. So we have this deficit of units, and we have more people moving into central Kentucky. And so, yes, prices are going up. Yes, there is a shortage, but for people to think that we're going to have the high peaks and, the low valleys, it's not, we did not experience, in the last, in 2008, the severe peaks and valleys that some of the other areas of the country had. Don't think we're going to see that here because we still have that deficit of housing units. And so the homes that are priced correctly are selling, and we're still seeing multiple offers. And you have to price it correctly to sell. And in purchasing, you have to be realistic that there's competition out there. The appraisals, you've got to be realistic too about what you're up against. And it's, it's a fine line on what works. And so you need to work with a professional that will shoot you straight on what the conditions of the market are. And I always advocate for having an inspection on a home. For 13 years, I was a government liaison for the Home Builders Association for the state, dealing with FHA, VA loans, rural housing loans, just trying to help people get into the starter home. And, it's very critical on your government loans needing to have the inspection. But I would also help write the law for the home inspectors. I was on one of the first I was on the original board of the home inspector board for the state. And so we met like on Tuesdays at the Board of Housing in Frankfort for 4 years. And it was to help the consumer because a lot of folks, you will go in a home and they'll see this new paint and the bells and the whistles they love, but it helps to have someone there, your realtor. It helps to have an inspector there to look in behind the glitz and see what's going on. And it also helps to have a good lender. People need to be pre-approved before they look for a home so that they know what price range they need to be looking at and know if there are any obstacles to buying the home for right now. And it also gives you're not wasting someone's time, your time, the realtor's time, the seller's time, that you know exactly what you're qualified for.
Right. It's kind of like, if you go shopping, you always take your credit card, right? So, all the more reason to have your financing in order, because if you find a home you like, you want to be able to move quick, especially in this market. Now, you mentioned that pricing your home is important, which, it's a great follow-up. So of that 1993 homes, if we look at the homes that are sitting on the market 60 days or longer, and that's probably due to like pricing, or, it's at a price point where most people can't afford it. There's over 1,000 homes. So that means that there's only about 950 homes available that turn on a monthly basis just within Central Kentucky, which even shrinks that area a lot further, which, is all the more reason to do the things that you mentioned.
Yeah. And Commerce Lexington was a part of a regional study done about the region, and it was very interesting. I don't have the stats with me now. They did Bob Quick did a presentation to the BIA back in February, and it was just fascinating to see what the different counties, their opinion on where they stand, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. And as far as companies coming in, and it really opened my eyes to a whole lot of things. And it might be a good thing for you to call Bob Quick and have him make a presentation for you, because it really, I found very, very informative.
Well, I definitely appreciate that. I will take you up on that offer. So,
Okay.
what is the one thing that sets you apart from the other real estate agents out there in the area?
Well, I think it's my knowledge of the components that go into a home. And I failed to mention, one year I was actually over codes for the state for the Homebuilders Association of Kentucky. So I know what should be, how a home should be constructed. I know codes. And, a lot of times when people are having an inspection, that people think that basically it's a punch list and a lot of it's cosmetic. And it's not about cosmetic things. It's about health and safety issues. And it's a big critical point of buying this long-term investment. And that's why I'm a strong advocate for having that inspection. I really am. And then if you're buying new construction, I'm a strong advocate for buying a home from a builder that's a member of a homebuilders association. It's like when I teach classes, I say, okay, if you need an attorney, would you not want to have someone that's a member of the bar? If you have a doctor, you want to have someone that's board certified. So, the same thing with a home builder. One thing is with having it sounds like I'm doing this for the Home Builders Association, but I'm not. But there is a new construction contract, and that there is the Notification to Repair Act and the NORA Act, and it's very specific on the contract that the builder has to. There's a time frame that you contact the builder, and you tell them what needs to be done to the house, in your opinion, and they have so many days to respond. And if that doesn't happen, then you contact the Home Builders Association. And I met with someone recently who bought new construction, but the home was finished and they didn't do it on a new construction contract. And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's a new home. Even if it's finished, it needs to be on the new construction because of the NORA Act, the Notification to Repair Act. And so the Opportunity to Repair Act. And it's very, very defined on what your dates are and how to go about it. And it gives you that extra level of confidence that someone's standing behind you. It's just like when I said, and the reason that I got on to the home inspectors board is because I was livid at, we had a couple of home inspectors who were doing some things that weren't kosher. And I was just livid about it. And I was the 11th builder that they went after. And so you know me well enough that when I feel that someone's doing something that's not ethical, I stand up. And next thing I knew, the governor had appointed me to this board. And the funny thing is, he and I were not of the same party. So it had nothing to do with any contributions or anything. He knew that I was for the consumer and for myself, because what happened is you get someone like what these two fellows were doing, and it creates unrealistic expectations from the consumer, and it's not a win-win situation for anyone except for one party, and it wasn't right. And so therefore I ended up with a 4-year appointment. Boom. But I learned a lot from that. I really did. Okay. And I'm glad I did.
Very great. It definitely sounds like you have a vast array of knowledge. So having been in this industry and seeing all the things that you have, do you have like any favorite stories or experiences that kind of stand out over your career?
Well, what I tell people, we're taught location, location, location. And I always say it's not location, location, location. It's communication, communication, communication. And I know a lot of new agents like to text or they'll email, but a lot of times things will get lost in the written version. And it helps so much to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Because if you're in a sticky situation, if things aren't going well, it doesn't help to avoid the situation. It's the exact opposite, because you have to, if things fester, it just makes it so much worse. And a lot of times I am brought in as a facilitator in new construction issues. And the builder so many times will say, I haven't agreed to this. And I said, let me tell you, I've been on your side 1,000 times. And so all I'm trying to help is everybody get to the table. And I don't have a dog in this fight. And I said, it is to help everybody have a thorough understanding. Because most of the times what happens is that, let's say it's a builder knows what goes in the house. It is like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You have to get certain parts together, and it's just like, it's a flow chart. when I was doing the starter homes, I used to do starter homes, and it took me 43 working days to build a home. And that's because I had this flow chart, and it was boom, 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 boom. Every Monday, we started a home with the putting the footer in, and we knew what was going on with that home. Now, we might have, we get it framed, and you'd have a punch list before you went further. But someone might say, well, the window's not in the right place. I know that. I will take care of that. But it might not be that I'm going to take care of it today. I'll take care of it when I do the framing punch list. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying there's a process. But people like to have a verbal conversation, and that's great. But you need to back it up with written communication, because you can only have so much in this head, because there's a lot of rocks in there. And so you forget. And it helps so much. And that's why I say communication. And, with COVID, we have, and people dealing with new construction will say, I was supposed to close my house, in 6 months, and now I'm 18 months. Yes. And, the costs have gone up dramatically. And, if you're still under a contract with a builder and they haven't raised your price, there are a whole lot of variables, but it doesn't do any good to lose your temper. It just, it's easy when somebody is being combative, but it's best to back off, put it in writing the next morning. But you really need to follow up every meeting and put it in writing. And I like to say, follow up Friday is your F day, and that's follow up Friday. And you've heard that from me before. You should communicate with your clients on Friday. Let them know. And if nothing's going on, you haven't heard anything. And, it just helps with the flow. If you haven't heard from a lender, then contact them and just ask them if they've heard anything. Where do we stand on this? It just helps to keep everybody engaged, because everybody wants to know that they're important, that they're not a number. And, I had a personal situation this last month, and in the medical field, and felt that I had been forgotten. And I, for 3 weeks, no one called me back. Nobody called me back. I very calmly went in the office and said, nobody's called me back. Do I need to find a new doctor? Boom. I got the results that I wanted, but it was just inside, I was churning. The old Joe might have, but it's so true. And it's like, you remember some bad situations, but you remember the really good situations too. And it amazes me how many people that I will run into that'll say, you built my home, or, families that I have sold multiple homes to. And it's a very, very good feeling to know that these people keep coming back and coming back and coming back, because they've become not only clients, but friends. And I have some friends that I didn't know, and they had contacted a builder to build their home. And he said, I don't build at that price range, but my friend Jo Gawthrop does. And so he said, why don't you call her? And so they did. And I've spent most of my holidays for the last 13 years with them. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I thank him every time I see him. So, but it's good. This real estate is all about relationships, and it's we forget that sometimes. We do, but we shouldn't forget that.
Yeah. Jo, it has been a beautiful experience. Thank you so much for coming on the Dr. My Budget podcast. So how can people get in contact with you?
Well, my name is impossible to spell. It's not impossible, but it's Gawthrop, Gawthrop. So what happened is it used to be jo.gawthrop@kw.com, but nobody knew how to spell it. So now it's simply jojosells, jojosells @kw.com. Now that's KW for Keller Williams, not KY for Kentucky. So jojosells @kw.com, or call me at 859-621-2595.
All right, Jo, thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone, if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time around.
Holding my breath and I'm ready to go. I'm falling right in and I'm ready to go. I found what I